He got a haircut.
They got them all cut?
He got a haircut. Look at that.
I don't think so.
No?
No.
You just slicked it back Pat Riley style? I mean...
No, it's just the way it normally is.
Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. A 4:30 Wednesday show. Seth Kamen's over there. I'm Sean Palmer over here. And we have a good amount to talk about today. In 2 weeks, we have our NBA draft preview, of which
that used to be a lot more exciting than it is.
You know
now.
what? I have Ron Holland going 11. I'm not exactly sure who he goes to or when he goes or where he goes, but he's going to go 11th. I have no idea who number 1 or number 2 is. And
how did you come up with 11th? Was 12th not available?
12th was not available. In my mock draft, 11 was Ron Holland.
You've done your mock draft already.
In some respects, I have done the top 13. In some respects, I will tell you, 14 through 30, swing. I could just throw my hands up because I have no idea. And the Knicks pick, I think, 22 and 23. They have back-to-back picks, which I hope they will trade because Tom Thibodeau will never play a rookie. So
absolutely true. So
God forbid we actually get 2 rookies that are first-round picks that take up valuable cap room. And then the week after that is the NBA free agency and LeBron's opt-out. So will Bronny be Bronny? First of all, before we get into Jerry West, which is kind of an important thing today, Danny Hurley. I swore I thought the minute he got on that plane, he was taking that job. I didn't think that you get on the plane if you're not taking that job. And he didn't take the job. My feeling was if he took the job and got fired in 3 years, let's say he got fired, right, for whatever reason. All right, first of all, guaranteed money, right? $80 million. That money doesn't come along every day. Number 2, it's not like the college jobs won't be there in 3 years. Maybe Kentucky opens up because Mark Pope doesn't do well.
Yeah, whatever it is, there's always going to be something.
He'd have his pick of any job in the country, potentially. So instead of doing that, now, granted, the Lakers job is not a great job for me, in my opinion. In fact, I think it might be one of the worst jobs in the NBA.
High expectations, overpaid players. LeBron is 40. Anthony Davis, although had a great year last year, is injury prone. Expectations are through the roof. West is difficult.
If you win, it's LeBron. If you lose, it's you. That's basically the issue.
Is that what we call it? Is that what we call the David Blatt syndrome?
Yes, basically. I mean, or Frank Vogel syndrome, or.
Well, but Vogel won a title.
Right, and it was but it was LeBron. It wasn't Frank Vogel.
True.
How often does Frank Vogel get credit for that title? When you talk about championship coaches, Frank Vogel is not on the tip of your tongue.
No, he's not.
Because if he was, he'd have a job, and he doesn't have one right now. So, yeah, are you surprised that he went back to UConn?
Yeah, I am. I don't think coaching college is re-recruiting every year is not a fun job. The $11.5 million a year for 6 years guaranteed. Look, not that he's losing his job at UConn anytime soon. But I guess it comes, he's a Jersey guy. His wife's a Jersey girl. He has won 2 titles back to back. The idea of a third one.
That's John
Wooden. Which hasn't happened since Wooden.
Yeah.
I mean, he's young enough to make a 4 or 5 title run and try and hit that pantheon. And if that's what he wants, so be it. And maybe the way his thinking is, his personality may be better suited for college dealing with it than pros, where they're less apt to listen to a lot of the yelling and screaming that he's kind of known for.
Yeah. I will tell you, if he wins, let's say, another title in the next 5 years, the next 4 years, right? So he wins 3 out of 7 years. Okay. He's in the top. That's more impressive than Wooden winning 3 in a row.
Well, 3 in a row, yes, but Wooden won 9 out of 11.
Yeah, but he won 9 out of 11 in a situation, right? First of all, UCLA was dominant compared to he's doing it at UConn. I mean, there's that. I mean, he was flooded with recruits. While I know we're talking eras, right? And you're talking about basically a different form of basketball, right? The 3-pointer wasn't there back then. And you didn't get to play freshmen, which is why Bill Walton and Lou Alcindor's records were beaten. Because if they had played 4 years, I'm not sure anybody could have topped Kareem at any point. But I think he would have, if he wins 2 more championships, which puts him at 4. How many did Krzyzewski win?
5.
5. And how many did Dean Smith win?
2.
Okay, so granted, he's got to do 20 more years, right, to touch Dean Smith, but he's in the conversation. He's got to be.
Yeah.
With 4 championships. And 4 championships at UConn. Like that, I know people will make out, well, it's UConn. UConn's been dominant, but you ask me all the time how people get recruited to Syracuse University. I'm not sure how anybody gets recruited to UConn. I don't know if you've ever been to Storrs, Connecticut.
Can't say I've had the pleasure.
Don't worry. It's not a pleasurable experience at all. It is in the middle of cow country, USA. So I'm sorry if I have offended anybody from Storrs. But if you haven't been to Storrs, it is cow country, USA. But anyway, so, all right, where do the Lakers turn from here? Now, to the Lakers' credit, I will give them credit. They shot for the moon, right? They didn't like anybody else that was out there. And they now can tell their fans, I went for the best of the best, and I put forth an offer. But here's my question. Was the offer big enough?
I don't know what he makes at UConn.
Doesn't matter what he makes at UConn.
He was offered, I think it was 6 years, $70 million.
Okay, so if you're Monty
$11.5 million a year.
So Monty Williams makes 14, Ty Lue makes 15, Spoelstra makes 17, and Popovich, I believe, makes 18. Now, I'm not saying he should be in Popovich Spoelstra category. I'm not saying that. My point is, if you want this guy, if this is your guy, are you offering him top 10 NBA money or are you offering him top 5 NBA money? If you really want him, if you know what he's against, do you think this was the Lakers throwing out a number saying to their fans, I went after a guy without really going after the guy, right? You can offer something knowing it's going to be rejected, knowing you're not making him the belle of the ball.
It's still $11.5 million a year.
Okay. If you told LeBron James that I'm offering you $11.5 million a year on a $50 million contract, yes, it's still $11.5 million, but it's not 50.
No, but he hasn't done it when Billy Donovan came over from Florida after back-to-back titles to Oklahoma City a couple years later. He wasn't making top 5 money as a coach, I don't believe. I don't think this was a financial decision. Look, if you're going to throw him $20 million a year, yeah, I'm sure that would have bent the. But if you're telling me that the difference between offering him $11.5 million and $12.5 million was going to get him there,
no,
I don't buy it.
If you want the guy, if you want something that badly, you overwhelm the guy, right? Or overwhelm the person. If you want the car, if you're going in to buy somebody's car and you want the car, you don't offer them $5,000 below MSRP. You offer them MSRP or you offer them over. If you want a house that badly, do you offer asking or do you add another 10 grand to asking? just to get it done. You add another 10 grand over asking. Now, granted, I've never bought a house, so I can't speak to that, but I'm just saying that's what you do. And if you're the Lakers and Lakers fans, if you're the Lakers, you can say, I put forth a good effort to go get Danny Hurley. And if you are a Lakers fan, you're going to say, that's great. You didn't offer him enough to make him second guess.
The problem is, as you said, I don't know what that number would be. If you're saying, look, I think I want to throw him $85 million over 5 years and get him to that. Yeah, well, that would overwhelm him. But is he Spoelstra or Popovich? At this point, no.
Okay.
So to me, I don't think this was a money thing. No. I just think he decided, I get it. You think if they had thrown $5 million extra a year, it would have been so much that it would have compensated for that. I get it.
Yep.
Okay. Only Danny Hurley can answer that question.
Well, you and I have had the conversation about Jaylen Brown 1,000 times over, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Jaylen Brown is the most expensive player in the NBA right now, right? Has he earned the right to be the most expensive player in the NBA right now? Of course not.
No.
Right. But right time, right situation, right? Doesn't matter sometimes whether you've earned it or not. OG Anunoby is going to make $40 million this year. OG Anunoby is not going to earn $40 million this year because he's going to play 58 games next year out of 82. But right place, right time. So just because you've made it, just because you're offered it doesn't mean you've earned it. That's just my take on it. But anyway, so now the Lakers can say we went after the bell of the ball. We're a little bit embarrassed that he turned us down. Now where do we go? And do we go to our favorite podcaster, JJ Redick?
I don't know. It feels that way. But you have Redick. They have the guy Benigo, who was the coach of Charlotte, which doesn't seem like an overly exciting pick. They have David Adelman. They have, pretty much they want to go for a name. Redick is the name out there. Whether he's the right coach for this team at this point, considering he's never coached before, a little dubious, to say the least, but it gets them publicity, which it seems like this is, we always talk about that half the time the free agents and the draft are more fun than the actual regular season. Usually the coaching carousel is not. But it does seem like the Lakers are trying to dominate that as well by throwing first Hurley, then Redick, then Hurley, then Redick again out in this.
Well, the thing is they couldn't hire Redick for another 2 weeks anyway. So why not dominate the last 2 weeks? You can't hire Redick while he's on the NBA Finals.
That could be over in 3 days.
Well, that's a great segue. Do you think it will be over in 3 days?
No, I don't. No, but look, I'm assuming they could, or is this literally a CBA?
No, they wouldn't. It would be a conflict of interest. He would not be able to go and broadcast on an.
He's not broadcasting. I don't see that. He's not broadcasting his team.
Telling you, it doesn't. You have insight into. That's why Tom Brady can't own the Raiders and be the Fox broadcaster. It's not going to go through. Will not happen. That is the reason why. He's going to have to divest in one of them. And
right, but here's the difference. He is currently an owner of the Raiders.
No, he's not. They haven't pushed it through yet.
They haven't pushed it through yet.
And the point is, they probably won't if he's going to be a broadcaster.
He could be a broadcaster, but this is almost the opposite situation where he will cease being a broadcaster. Do I really think if they hire if Boston wins tonight, it's 3-0. What exactly inside information?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't think they do. Most of the look, perception is sometimes worse than reality, right? And here you are with perception. Perception is that this is an extreme conflict of interest. You don't see coaches Now, you do see coaches, Seth, or players that come in the studio shows, right? All the time. You had Chris Paul on the TNT studio show with like 17 other people in that one session, which was a lot of fun. But you'll never see a player be doing play-by-play, and you'll never be seeing a player doing color commentary. It's just not a good perception for them to be criticizing another team. Just not. So JJ doing that, if he's going to be hired, yes, it may be in 3 days. Yes, it may be in 7 days. But it won't be done until after that. No question. Okay. Speaking of NBA Finals, did you watch Game 1 or Game 2?
Parts. I mean, I watched a lot of Game 1. I didn't watch as much of Game 2. I watched some tonight. Boston dominated Game 1. Game 2, as I said, I was kind of in and on. I'm just not that excited by either team. I probably should be excited by Dallas. I'm just not.
A lot to do with Kyrie?
Probably.
Do you buy the Adam Silver apology for Kyrie?
Nah. Do you?
You know, I think in some ways, I don't buy that it's an apology. I buy that he has learned. Look, people are going to have opinions, right? No matter what. You and I have opinions on certain things that we don't share with the general public. For whatever reason, those opinions are. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative, some will be thought badly, some of them will be praised. And my grandmother once said there are 5 things to observe with care. To whom you speak, of whom you speak, how, when, and where. And I think he's learning that concept. And it's a matter of, hey, you know what? I don't got anything nice to say. I'm just not going to say anything. And that's okay. To me, that's growth. I'm okay with that. Do I buy the apology? No, of course not. But do I buy that he's grown up enough to know that, you know what, there are some things that you just shouldn't say? Yeah, he's been quiet the last 2 years. I have a hard time, I think I said this last week, I have a hard time reconciling that I want athletes to speak their mind. I don't want them to shut up and play basketball or shut up and dribble, right?
Right.
I don't want that. And then not every opinion I'm going to agree with, right? By the way, if you're looking for something to watch, Clipped on Hulu is amazing. It's about the Clippers during the Donald Sterling years. They're on episode 3. If our viewers are looking for something entertaining,
You've watched it?
I've watched the 3 episodes that have come out. So very good. Lawrence Fishburne does a great Doc Rivers, by the way. Even with the gap tooth, it's fantastic, and he really does look like him. Okay, so given the fact that we now have a 2-0 scenario, what is your prediction going? Look, I watched the majority of Game 2. I was on a plane, which certainly helps. Game 1, I was sleeping back from Italy. It was like the day after I got back, so I was back and forth. I'm glad I missed Game 1 because that was awful. Game 2 shows me that Dallas could win a game or two here in going back home.
They could.
And if they go 2-2 back to Boston, it's anybody's game. It's anybody's. I mean, they could win 2 games. They did not get blown out in Game 2.
No, they did not.
They played well. And look, it's all going to come down to how well your boy Kyrie, well, I said that in quotes, your boy Kyrie plays, because Luka's going to be Luka. He's going to score 30 points. It's not the Batman, it's the Robin. How well does – it's never been Jordan. It was always Pippen and Grant. It was never Jordan. It was always Rodman. How these guys play. Okay. So, unfortunately today, this morning, word came down from the Clippers of all places that
that was weird.
That I think he's been consulting with the Clippers. So
yes.
Word came down. It's amazing He played with Elgin and Chamberlain. He worked with Kareem, Magic, Worthy, Shaq, Kobe, Steph, Clay, Durant,
Ja.
Kawhi, Ja, and Paul George. Oh my Lord. Like anybody that's anybody over the last 25 years, except for any Celtic he's worked with, right? Because he specifically said, I hate the Celtics. He actually almost quit after losing to the Celtics 9 straight years in the 1960s. Look, we talked about Bill Walton being influential in general, right? Jerry West has his fingerprints on everything in the last 50 years.
Well, I mean, think about it. He starts off when we were growing up.
No, go even before that, when your dad was growing up.
No. When we were, what was your all-time team? Your all-time NBA starting 5 when you were growing up?
Oscar, Jerry West, Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and Pickett.
Elgin Baylor, Bob Pettit.
Julius Irving, probably, if I had to guess. And wait, is this before or after Larry and Magic? Because
this is kind of before.
Okay. Once Larry and Magic came, then it changed. But those would be the 5.
The one thing that was never questioned was the starting line. Was the starting guards. Oscar Robertson, Jerry West. End of discussion.
I'm glad we concur on that. Yep.
And then after the 90s, it was they were the backup guards to Magic and Michael. You never really heard another name.
Nope.
And then he goes to what, 10 finals, 11 finals.
He went to 10 in a row and lost 9.
Yep.
Like he lost it to the Celtics. Like he lost every single one of them to the Celtics. He's the only player to win the MVP of the finals on a losing team.
Yep, in 69 or 68, the year before the Knicks beat him. He was considered Mr. Clutch. He was his silhouette. He was the logo.
He is the logo. He was the logo. Yeah, he is the logo.
That is, I mean, that should have just been his nickname, the logo. I don't know if that ever was, but should have been. I think it was actually Mr. Clutch.
Well, you know why it wasn't? Because he, for years, said he wasn't that guy. He disclaimed. He said, no, I'm not. That's not me. For years, he did that. For decades, he said, that's not me. Now, come on, Mr. Humility, that's not me. Yeah, we all know it's you, buddy. Like, so he does that. And you're right. For a couple of decades, it was who are the guards? And then it was, okay, now I'll graduate into coaching, right? And he did that for like 5 years. And he was successful doing that. And then
I don't even remember that he was a coach.
That was in the 70s. And then he took over for Bill Sharman as the GM of the Lakers.
Right. And he built the Showtime Lakers.
So he didn't build. So Kareem was there. Magic was there. He drafted Worthy.
Yep.
So, by the way, there is a story that the Lakers front office said, I want to trade James Worthy for
Dallas
for Mark Aguirre and Roy Tarpley, right? Yep. And by the way, Mark Aguirre was Magic's friend, right? From Detroit, Chicago, actually. He was from Chicago. He later went to Isaiah, but they were all a group, right? Roy Tarpley was one of the most talented big men I've ever seen, but just could not stay clean from drugs. And who knows what LA would have done. But Jerry West said, you do this, I quit.
Yep.
We're done. You do this, I quit. And I'm not really sure it would have changed anything, quite frankly. I mean, those are really talented guys. Like, really talented, Aguirre and Tarpley. I mean, Tarpley was a Hall of Fame talent, and Aguirre was a Hall of Very Good, right?
Yeah, he was an all-star for many years.
Yeah. I mean, traded for Adrian Dantley eventually for the Bad Boys. So he walks out. So he does that. So they win in the Magic era. And then, we're without the Magic era. Wait a second. We need a guy there's this big guy in Orlando that's becoming a free agent. Let's clear out enough cap room that we can offer this big guy. Oh, his name is Shaq. No big deal. And we'll bring him over to LA, right? Because why would Shaq need to be anywhere else but in LA? And by the way, there's this guy out of Lower Meridian High School in Philly who wants to be a Laker. We got this guy, Vlade Divac. He's pretty good, but Charlotte wants him. So we'll get Kobe to tell everybody above the number 13, including the Nets, that he won't play with them. He pulled an Eli Manning to 13. Seth, how many players pull anything to 13? That's insane. I mean, Kobe had leverage, right? He could have gone to Italy because his father was an Italian citizen. He could have gone to college. He could have gone anywhere. And so so Jerry West pulls the trade of all trades and trades the 13th pick for Vlade. And they trade Vlade for the 13th pick, picks up Kobe, and oh my God, here we have another dynasty. And then, by the way, when we're done with that, let's go to Memphis and build the grit and grind, right? Which is, let's build Zach Randolph and Tony Allen, and we'll make the trade. We'll trade you Marc Gasol, we'll trade you Pau Gasol.
Pau Gasol.
We want Marc Gasol back. And it's possible Marc Gasol was actually better than Pau Gasol. It's possible. And then, we're done with that. Oh, yeah, this Memphis thing isn't working out. Wait, Joe LaCobe out in Golden State starting something over there. Oh, let's go draft this guy named Steph. And by the way, they want to trade the guy named Clay. Yeah, I think that's a bad idea, said Jerry West. I think he's going to do something. And Jerry West and Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry become what we said last week, the best backcourt of all time. Not a bad career.
No. The only player I can ever think of who's only person related to the NBA who will be going into the NBA for three different things. Yes. As an Olympian in the 1960 team, which prior to the Dream Team is, I believe, considered the greatest Olympic basketball team of all time. As a player, and then he was going in this year as a contributor.
Yeah.
I mean, he won a gold medal. He won a championship. He was the personification, it seems, of class in every way. Beloved by just about everyone, except unless you were a Celtic. And the Celtics loved him for the most part. I think Bill Russell had made comments years before that the one regret, not the regret that they have, is I think they were the happiest of anyone to see him win a title in 70 when they beat the crap out of the Knicks. Or 71, I should say. I forget which year it is. But yeah, he is, he wasn't charismatic. You have Bill Walton on one side who is, was injury prone, but charismatic. And there was just an enormous, West never came off that way. He was the consummate professional in everything he did. And that's a void.
He's got his hands on the last 60 years of basketball. Like, just think about that. I think he is the second biggest contributor to the NBA ever. Now, can you name the number one guy that I'm missing? I thought about this today.
Auerbach?
Yeah, bingo, spot on. Because Auerbach integrated the NBA. He made it so first of all, he did the ultimate FU with the cigar, which I think is still phenomenal, right? It's like, yeah, we won. I'll light it up in the third quarter. No big deal. I suggest for those that are, I saw this the other day, it was on TV, the Lakers Celtics 30 for 30 on ESPN, which is phenomenal. And Jerry West was a big part of that in the 60s. Yeah, I mean, look, you had West and you had Elgin Baylor after Minnesota, right? After Mikan retired. Mm-hmm. And you had a guy from West Virginia go to LA which may be the most absurd thing until you saw a guy named from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, go to LA. And right, I mean, yeah, it always struck me in that. By the way, Neon DeBow, if you recognize the name, was Shaquille O'Neal's name in Blue Chips, and he came from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, too. So it's like, okay, there's some similarity there. But the fact is, I always thought that West plucked Shaq because he was like, this is a guy just like me. He comes from a small place, and he's just going to light this place up. And big game James Worthy, another player just like Jerry West, right? Humble, did not speak out of turn. Now, then you have Magic, but Magic spoke to everybody. But he knew when to make trades. He knew when not to make trades, which is kind of important. Right? I mean, he knew Norm Nixon had worn out his welcome and
playing with Magic. Yeah.
He couldn't play with Magic, and that was the end of Norm Nixon, although Norm Nixon was an all-star guard. So big void. Like big I'm tonight the NBA finals are on at 8:30. I'm interested. There'll be something at the beginning of that game.
Yes.
I'm interested to see what that is. A pretty big void. I did not know he was consulting with the Clippers. But that makes
consulting with the Clippers for several years.
I mean, it makes sense. Like he wasn't out of basketball, right? That's not his way. That's not his way. By the way, what I forgot was, do you realize he was the one that hired Hubie Brown in Memphis?
I did not.
So if you had to name,
or maybe I did, and I just don't remember, to be honest.
If you had to name the most intelligent basketball minds of our time, Hubie's got to be in the top 5, right? I mean,
yes.
Hubie taught me basketball. I mean, he was the Knicks guy. So
he's still teaching basketball, and he's 85 years old.
Yeah. And by the way, congrats to Doris Burke, since we're talking about announcers, on being the first woman to broadcast the NBA Finals. I love listening to her. I think she is phenomenal. Okay. So with that in mind, how many games do you think that the Mavericks take out of this series?
Probably 1.
Okay, so they're going to win tonight, right? Because
I would think so.
They win your one game at home, and then Mark Cuban rides off into the sunset with his $4 billion. I mean, why not at that point? Okay, so 2 weeks to the NBA draft. We know nothing about the NBA draft other than there's this big, tall Frenchman that may be number 1.
I think 2.
No, there's one really big, tall freshman. There's another Ricochet. That's the second.
6'8", 6'9".
6'8", 6'9". He's, in my opinion, actually, he's going to go number 1, who may be the first non-scoring number 1 in NBA history. If you could point out another guy that doesn't even lead his own team in scoring that goes number 1, I'd be impressed to find that out because I don't know if there is any of it. Okay. Free agency will be shortly after the NBA draft. The Knicks, Isaiah Hartenstein, Paul George. Does he go to the 76ers? And more importantly, well, not more importantly, I guess more interestingly, where does Jimmy Butler land? Because he's going to create a stink one way or another. I mean, could he wind up in La La Land? I don't know. I don't know what they trade for him, but
I was going to say, what are they going to trade?
2 first-round picks because they have access to 3 come draft night, but we'll see. Okay. Talking about guys that now Paul George and Jimmy Butler want to get paid. Talk about a guy that did get paid. Ladies and gentlemen, throwing for JJ O'Connor will be throwing to the $35 million man, Justin Jefferson, who we will not pick in our draft. And resets the not even the wide receiver market, Seth.
No, it resets the non-QB market.
Non-QB market. So he gets paid more than Nick Bosa, which I believe he probably should. But this is all opportunity, right? We talked about this before in that you're going to have Justin Jefferson at 35. You still got some wide receivers that need deals. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett. Wow, that's interesting music. Can we go with that? Garrett Wilson will need a deal after this year. If that's the Tyreek Hill's looking for another deal, are any of them going to beat Justin Jefferson's deal?
I don't think so. I think that's the peak of the market.
This is it right here.
I think this is it. Dallas can't do of the names you mentioned. There's only two where I think you could. Jesus Christ, where I think you could kind of go in that direction. That's Lamb and Chase. I don't think Dallas doesn't have the money to do it for Lamb. I don't see Cincinnati ever being the team that resets the market.
I'd agree with that. I mean, they'd be barely able to keep the market, let alone reset the market.
And the other ones, I mean, Tyreek Hill, as great as he is also now, I think he's in his early 30s or close to it, and he's a speed guy. I mean, he'll get a hell of a deal. He's not going to get $35 million. T. Higgins is not getting $35 million. I think this is the peak.
Okay. I mean, look, the thing is, as we've talked about numerous times, this is on the basis of a cap, right? So the cap has jumped 10%, and the market has not jumped 10%. And that's the big difference, is someday you're going to have a player, probably a quarterback, tie his salary to the cap, much like they do in the NBA, where you have a percentage of the cap. Joe Burrow could have been that guy, right? Tua doesn't have the pull.
Tua is not that guy.
Doesn't have the pull to do it. You have to be the top of the market guy. And more importantly, you have to be a player that the team will not lose. Like under any sort. Dak's not that guy. Because if Dak was that guy, he would have already been signed. So I question how many of those guys still. Mahomes is that guy if he wanted to play the card.
But he doesn't. He has a 12-year deal, a 13-year deal.
And he keeps getting renegotiated to keep him up with the market. So why does he care? Why is he going to rock the boat? I don't know how many of the quarterbacks that are either out there now or are coming in that, I mean, Bryce Young certainly is not that talent, right? I mean, remember, who earns more, Seth? Justin Jefferson or Derek Carr?
I think it's Jefferson, but not by much. I thought Carr was 4 years, 120.
Carr got yeah, but it declines. Carr makes more.
Similar to Daniel Jones.
Right. Daniel Jones makes more, right? So the quarterback market is the quarterback market. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to see new deals come for defensive players like Micah Parsons. That is going to reset the market 100%.
You think he'll exceed
Jefferson? Yes.
I agree.
100%. I'm not sure he should. I don't know where the market should be, right? Because are you better with a Derek Carr or a second-round pick? I don't know the answer to that question. Obviously, the Saints believe it's Derek Carr. Better with a second-round pick. Are you better, right? I mean, you're paying all this money to these guys. At some point, the league is going to look at running backs and say, how does this apply to the rest of the league? Right? Can I go and get a guy? Can I trade a Micah Parsons for two first-round picks, provided one is in the top 10, and reset the edge market? So that way I'm not paying $45 million to Micah Parsons. I'm paying $6 million to the next Nick Bosa or the next Jermaine Johnson. I don't know. But at some point, what happens with running backs is going to happen going forward to a lot of other positions. It's just a matter of when somebody takes that stance. Not exactly sure who that's going to be. Okay. You have any thoughts on that Messi has revealed that Miami will be his last club? By the way, thank God that this will be his last club, because then I don't
Thank God. What's the
well, I
difference?
don't have to hear about him moving anymore. It's not going to be more money somewhere else.
Thank God. I mean, I don't think it's not like listening to Mbappe for the last 3 years.
I don't want to hear any of it. Like, that's my problem.
Is that because it's soccer, or is that just because it's him?
No, it's definitely not because it's him. It's because
You don't care about soccer, so for
no,
you,
it's not even that. It's how much money it is. Look, I don't like these. If there's no, I don't like it in baseball. Like, I'm hearing about Juan Soto's amount, and I'm going, are you crazy? You're giving that to a right fielder?
Yep.
And the thought of the Yankees giving $90 million to two guys is insane. Baseball is a team sport. But sure, why not? Let's do it. I mean, it's not my money. And as long as you don't have a cap, I think I have a problem. Look, I'm a baseball fan. I am. I love baseball. I love the stats. I play fantasy baseball. I love that concept. But I've lost a lot of interest in baseball due to the haves versus the have-nots.
Yep. Even though your team is a have.
But they've only been a have the last 2 years. But yeah, even though my team is a have. And by the way, being a have doesn't guarantee success, as we have seen, right? When you look at the NBA, and granted, there are haves and have-nots in the NBA too, right? Just not as many. And the have-nots are not because of money, but strictly incompetence.
Yeah, I was going to say that's more organizational issues.
Right? You look at Charlotte, and let's look at their first-round picks over the last couple of years. Remember, they had the chance to trade Frank Kaminsky before he was drafted for 3 first-round picks, and they turned it down to draft Frank Kaminsky, who's
Frank Kaminsky?
Who I remember for 2 reasons. Number one, he was the center on the Wisconsin team.
Mm-hmm.
See? Pat on the back. Love that. And number two, I refer to him as Frank the Tank, from old school, which he is not Frank the Tank at all. But every time I think of Frank Kaminsky, I think of Will Ferrell. So, yes. But that's incompetence, right? If you look at the Nets, that's incompetence. If you look at, I don't know, let's pick another team. Let's pick the Suns, even though they are the haves, right? That's incompetence. Total and complete incompetence. If you look at the NFL, same deal. The Panthers. God save Dave Tepper. That's incompetence, right? Pure and simple. Incompetence. But you can turn around the team in 2 years in the NFL.
Yes.
Because everybody is created equal. I have a hard time. I lose patience with the teams with the leagues that are not created equal. And baseball and soccer or football or whatever the hell you want to call it are 2 of those sports. Football just, I don't even, the fact that, is it Ronaldo that's in Saudi Arabia at this point?
Yes.
Right? How much is he earning in Saudi Arabia? $1 billion?
70, 80 million, something like that.
Does anybody
what?
Does anybody care?
No. He's irrelevant.
Right. It's like it would be like Aaron Judge going to the Japanese baseball league. Right? So, okay. Seth, I don't really have much else to talk about today. I'm going on. Let's go to the last 5. What do you got?
Well, I think you start off. Congratulations, Carlos Alcaraz.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know how big a fan you are.
I don't even know what you're congratulating him for.
Winning the French?
Congratulations, Carlos Alcaraz.
Look, beating 2 phenomenal players in the semifinals and the finals is a great final. The French Open was fun this year. It was a really good tournament. Igo Swiatek won, I think it was their 4th in a row on the women's side. I think the European Soccer Championships start tomorrow or on Friday. I know how. Look, to me, I'd rather watch that than baseball.
Well, we'll talk next week about the results of that because I will know nothing about it.
There you go. I'm sure you will because it'll be on It'll be on the ESPN front page. But yeah, it's a dead time. We always talk about this, and then we could talk about the NBA draft. But as you said, nobody knows crap anymore.
Yes. Okay. My last 5 minutes are going to be dominated by basically an asshole, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. So, last year was last year, right? You said all the wrong things at all the wrong times. And you came out of last year saying, I want no distractions whatsoever. I am a team first player. Then you go do this Robert F. Kennedy BS where I'm going to be a vice president. That's not a distraction at all. Not one bit. Because if you're the vice presidential candidate, guess what? You're not playing football at the same time you're a vice presidential candidate. So ergo, you are retiring from the NFL. Wait. Hold on. That's not going to happen. We don't want to do that. Okay. I never said I was a vice presidential candidate. It was floated, but it wasn't me. That sounds familiar. Okay. But that's not a distraction at all. Now we have minicamp. And the two guys that don't show up are Hassan Reddick. Okay, you want a new contract. I get it. And supposedly the guy that doesn't want to be a distraction in Aaron Rodgers.
Well, he's not there, so he's not a distraction.
Right. Because if Luka doesn't show up tonight, that won't be a distraction at all for the Mavericks, right? It's not necessarily that you show up. It may be that you don't show up. My Lord, come on, buddy. I don't like you as a person. You're a complete asshole, a complete narcissist, a complete jerk. I wouldn't want to talk to you for $1 million. Seriously, if I saw him on the street, I'd be okay. In fact, I saw Stephen A. Smith in the airport, and I was in Boston. I was like, nope, you know what? I don't need that. And I walked away. But you are the quarterback of my team. I root for the name on the front, not the name on the back. You are the quarterback of my team. Please, for the love of God, show up. I mean, come on. You don't want to be a distraction? Then don't be a distraction. I'm beside myself. By the way, last point. Do you think Porzingis' injury matters?
It does.
You are a very, very you are a wanted man today. That phone has not
the sixth phone call in about 20 minutes. Yeah. It matters, but I still think it matters because he is their lone big man of relevance that's under the age of 60.
I will point out when Mark Rubin came on the show in the beginning of the year, I said there are two things that could beat the Celtics. One is the Celtics themselves, just stupidity, right? And number two is the injury bug of Kristaps Porzingis.
You did say that.
There is no depth behind him. And if he gets hurt, this is going to be a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, the injury concern of Kristaps Porzingis to any Knicks fan, we have seen this game before, and we wish you well. No, we don't. Not if you're Celtics fans. We don't at all. Okay, for Seth Kamens, I'm Sean Palmer, Seth and Sean Sports. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one.